What's up, guys? It's Jack McNeil at ElmyTalk123 here. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well at ElmyTalk123. I hope you guys are having a great day. And if you're a Blue Jays fan, you might be very happy with this trade or a little upset about the haul that you had to give the Mets. If you're a Mets fan, I think that you're probably waving goodbye to R.A Dickey. Yes, it is not official yet, but you are probably mixed feelings, except you do feel great about the prospects you are receiving from the Blue Jays. So let's talk about this deal here. R.A Dickey is headed to the Blue Jays, pending an extension. Now, we've seen weirder things happen in baseball. Yes, there's a possibility that the Blue Jays don't reach an agreement with R.A Dickey, but R.A Dickey of, recent days has been a little upset with the Mets. You could say the angry elf incident, whatever you want to say. The fact is, he wanted to return to the Mets. He wanted to return on a 2-year deal worth about $26 to $28 million. I think they could have found a $27 million deal there, and, both sides are happy. I think that is under market for a pitcher of his stature. This guy just won the Cy Young Award, and the fact that he'd be making $13.5 million for the next 2 years on top of this 1-year, $5 million left for 2013. So it would be 2014 and 15. It would be 3 years the Mets would have him, and they're paying, $32 million for those 3 years. That is extremely under market value. When you consider that Edwin Jackson will probably make more than that, and you consider that Anibal Sanchez will make $16 million a year on average, and he is a sub-500 pitcher. That shows you that this pitching market for baseball, really just whole free agent market in general, is extremely inflated, and it's usually caused by one team going out and making a huge signing. You saw it with Brandon League signing with the Dodgers. So many examples. Most of them are out west. But let's look at R.A Dickey a little closer here. This guy's extremely talented, really found his own in 2010 and pitched great for the Mets, in the rotation 2010, 11, and 12. This guy, you have to feel just absolutely terrible for him. If you watch the E60 piece, he was sexually molested as a child. He went through a lot of tough times. His parents just had problems throughout his childhood. He kind of turned to sports to get away from that. He was extremely talented. This guy was on Team USA. He was going to go very high in the draft. He had some injury problems. He ended up barely getting signed for like $75,000, and he was hoping for millions of dollars. He was high on the draft pick, and it just everything kind of went downhill. It just didn't work out for him. Again, he had injury problems. He worked his way up. He spent countless years in the minor leagues. This is a guy who tried to swim across like the Missouri River because there was nothing left, and he wanted to feel worth, and he was not proud of that. He almost drowned doing so. He cheated on his wife. He didn't feel like he had any worth in the world. This is after he really struggled when he came up with the Rangers pitching that knuckleball. When he made a start, they gave him a chance, and he went 3 1/3 inning and allowed 6 home runs, breaking a record in the bad way. And you know what? You have to feel absolutely terrible for this guy. In the same sense, he was fortunate his whole life for being able to pitch in the major leagues and having those aspiring dreams of actually realistically making the major leagues, something that point something % of the world gets to do. It's a very small number of people that are that talented to be able to pitch in the minor leagues, to be able to go through all the baseball-related experiences that he went through. That being said, he's had a pretty tough life. Up until late. I mean, yes, he's always going to have to battle those demons, but you have to feel just absolutely ecstatic for the guy to be able to get a big contract that he deserves and to be able to find his own and find a worth for himself in 2010, 2011, and 2012. Not saying that he didn't feel a worth of that before that. He had to go to a psychiatrist, obviously, really kind of build that up, and it took a while for him to admit to those incidents that happened when he was a little kid, but you have to feel great for him now. It seems like he's gotten past that. He's a great guy. He worked very hard for the Mets. He came up, gave it everything they've got for a team that struggled like they did in 2012 in the second half. He still won 20 games. Imagine what he can do for the Blue Jays. And that's what happened. The Toronto Blue Jays have acquired R.A Dickey pending an extension. Now, again, we've seen weirder things happen in baseball, but it seems extremely likely, especially the fact what free agent pitchers have gotten in this market. The Blue Jays should easily go out there and say, you know what, we have the money. Rogers Communications, we are a big market team now. Yes, we've acted like a small, medium market team of past, but we have really going for it. We traded for Colby Rasmus a few years ago. We signed Edwin Encarnacion back. We signed Jose Bautista. We looked like we were doing kind of just the normal things to do, building up our farm system. With guys like Travis D'Arnaud, a huge catching prospect, the biggest catching prospect in the major leagues. I mean, give it 5 or 6 months, and Mike Zunino will easily be above him. But Again, I mean, this guy is a very talented catcher. He has 15 to 20 home run potential, high average, and he was kind of the centerpiece of this Blue Jays organization, along with youngsters like Buerhle before he was called up. You have some young pitching talent in Noah Syndergaard. They got in the first, second round in drafts. Aaron Sanchez, really that whole low A team, Lansing Lugnuts pitching staff. I was able to watch him in the Midwest League, and they were absolutely dominant. And it really showed the Blue Jays going forward in the drafts, getting young talent that, their window to win, I think most people thought in a few years once all this talent develops. But they rushed it. I mean, they traded all these prospects away. They're going for it between these next 3 years when you have Bautista, Encarnacion, Rasmus. Hopefully, you're hoping for him to hit into his stride here, something he hasn't really done yet, but he's still solid defender with 25 home run potential, the average you'd like to see go up there. You have Brett Lowry. You have all these guys, and you add Jose Reyes. You fix your pitching staff, adding on to Ricky Romero, who struggled tremendously last year, hoping he can have a better 2013 with guys like Josh Johnson, Mark Buehrle. Yes, there are risks there, but tremendous up. Not even to mention Brandon Morrow, who was their best starting pitcher for them last year. This guy wasn't a reliever, turned a starter, just a power pitcher, fantastic stuff, nasty, and he's got below a 3 RA. When you mix that with hopefully having a better season of Ricky Romero, I expect him to get back to the 15-16 win potential and lead this staff. You have Josh Johnson. Yes, there are risks there, no doubt. But I think that he will come back and have a great year, maybe win 15, 16 games at least, and set himself up for a pretty big contract, because next year he could be the big pitching free agent. He really could. A few years ago, he was the absolute ace of baseball, and the Marlins, although they weren't the best team, they still had him, and you can count on having a good chance of winning every 5 days. They don't have that now. They have Ricky Nolasco, who they could probably still trade. Getting back to the Blue Jays, though, their starting five is fantastic. You didn't want to have to use J.A. Happ, who they traded for in a pretty big 10-player deal with the Astros, something that Alex Anthopoulos has gotten very used to, made the huge 12-player blockbuster move earlier this offseason, made an 8-player move with the Cardinals, a year or two ago with Colby Rasmus, and then, of course, making that 10-player trade with the Astros last year. So he's getting used to these huge moves. We all knew that it was realistic to think that the Blue Jays were going to go for it at some point. We just didn't really know when. But still, those moves were absolutely shocking. Now, the deal as it stands right now, pending extension, is R.A. Dickey, Josh Tole, and a non-elite prospect. Now, Josh Tole, he's a solid catcher, and he will provide some depth for the Blue Jays, especially now that they're using a guy who's hitting 220 and JP Arancibia as their starting catcher. But Arancibia, he's a very good talent. I mean, this guy who knows the pitching staff well. He has pretty good defense, and he hits 20-plus home runs. I mean, he's hit them before. We know what he can do. He's proven in the major league, and D'Arnaud is not. So there could be value there with knowing the pitching staff very well, already proven in the major leagues and hitting for power in that 7-8 spot for the Blue Jays lineup. That being said, I think they would have really loved to be able to keep D'Arnaud. They were very hesitant. It probably was a difficult decision to make, especially when the deal also includes Noah Syndergaard. Now, Noah Syndergaard, I got to watch him pitch. This is an ace potential. I think he's a number 2, number 3 starter waiting to happen. His ERA, his strikeout numbers last year were absolutely incredible. He was part of that young talent for the Blue Jays, that low A team that had Aaron Sanchez and Noah Syndergaard, with, drafted in the high rounds, first and second round of, 2010 and 2011, part of that kind of haul for the Blue Jays. So for them to have to give him up a number 2 potential, it's tough. But yes, the Blue Jays solidify the rotation. They make it among the best in baseball if everything goes right. Now, there are still a lot of risks in the rotation, but to get R.A. Dickey in this deal is huge for the Blue Jays, getting the former Cy Young Award. And you know what? I think he will be stable. He'll hold up, and he'll probably get 17, 18 wins for the next few years for the Blue Jays. So, a great move in that sense. So, for the Blue Jays, you look at all their moves. They really have gone with it. Rogers Communications, they've been a big market team, just not spending like one. They finally went for it this year. They did some risky moves with Melky Cabrera. I think that pays off for them. They got him at a pretty good price for a 2-year deal. If he wouldn't have had a steroid, he would have then set himself up for a 4 or 5-year deal worth a lot more. So I like the move there that the Blue Jays did. You have Jose Reyes, you add to the team. You have Brett Lowry starting at third, of course. Adam Lynn at first. I think he's going to have a bounce-back year. You have Myceres Turris. I like that signing for them. Jose Bautista, of course, you have an extra outfielder in Emilio Bonifacio. He could be traded still, but provides great speed and depth there. To an outfield already jam-packed with Colby Rasmus, speedster Rajai Davis, now Melky Cabrera, Anthony Ghost, who they offered in a deal to the Mets. They declined it. I mean, really, and even Jose Bautista, I mean, this is a guy who hits 40, 50 home runs. So their lineup is stacked. Now, at DH, you have Edwin Encarnacion, who had a breakout year. You lock him up. Look for him to hopefully just stay steady numbers because you shouldn't expect anything better than what he did last year. I mean, that was ridiculous. Just a huge breakout year. You're hoping for a 20 home run season, in my view. Now you add John Buck. It's nice to have some depth someone who can hit a little higher average than JP Arencibia, but nothing much there. Pitching wise, Sergio Santos, you hope that he can stay healthy and come back and be a nice reliever. Ricky Romero headlining that staff with Brandon Morrow, Josh Johnson, Jay Happ now moves to the bullpen. You have Mark Buehrle, and of course now you have R.A Dickey. So their staff is fantastic. The relief could add one or two more, arms in my view. I think that they have some depth to trade from too, but overall, this team is looking very good. This Blue Jays team should contend in this AL East in 2013. It's a very open division. You see the Yankees is trying to stay afloat, having some payroll problems. The Red Sox trying to rebuild, trying to get that toxic clubhouse to a better feeling clubhouse, I would say, signing some veterans. We don't know what to expect with the O's, and the Rays will be very good as well. Now, I want to talk about from the Mets view because, in my mind, this was a genius trade for the Mets. Anytime you can trade a pitcher who potentially could walk in a year, I'm not sure he would have if they weren't going to trade him. I think part of this whole process, you want to be patient, you want to get your deal, and if, of course, they offer $20 million for 2 years, if R.A Dickey accepts that, the Mets get a Cy Young type pitcher for the next 2 years, and they're fine with that. But they didn't want to go anything over their price. And by doing that, they attract some teams realizing, you know what, we can get this pitcher under market value by giving up some top talent. And when you look at all the pitchers that are receiving the money, the Blue Jays have tried the free agent market. I mean, they really have. It hasn't worked. They offered money to all these free agents last year. They wouldn't take it. They were in the market for every big free agent. They're talking trades. Just too expensive, not the right deal. Now they decide to go for it, and they're just making an abundance of moves, really improving their team. And really, for the Mets to be able to get Syndergaard and to be able to get Travis D'Arnaud is absolutely huge for them. Now, that being said, they're adding some payroll with John Buck, obviously. A nice, solid backup there. I think you Travis D'Arnaud out a little bit. If you wait 3 weeks and then you start to play him, he doesn't become a free agent until 2019. So, you know what? There's some rewards for waiting a little bit, having John Buck, having someone else start the year at catcher. So it provides for them, some depth, some nice options, and really for the Mets, just to be able to get those two prospects, absolutely huge. Now, there still will be another non-elite prospect going both ways. I've heard names like DJ Davis, Decker. I'm not really quite sure that the Blue Jays are going to give up a first-round draft pick in this deal. If they do, it could be considered much more of an overpay, I think, than it already is. Because the notion of baseball is that the Blue Jays, yes, they got a great addition, R.A Dickey, but you don't know how he's going to pitch these next few years. And the Mets got a fantastic addition. They're setting themselves up for one of the best rotations in baseball in a few years with Harvey, Neese, Wheeler, Syndergaard. I mean, the list goes on and on with top 5 potentials for the Mets. Now, whether they all pan out or not, that's yet to be seen, of course. But they look like, I wouldn't say for sure things, but a lot of these guys are pretty close to being Major League ready. I think Syndergaard is a year and a half, 2 years away. I mean, yes, he's pitching in low A. His numbers are fantastic, 2.60 ERA, part of that great Lansing Lugnuts starting rotation for the Midwest League. A lot is going up for the Mets. Yes, they signed David Wright. They keep their franchise player. I think look for them. They still have so many holes to fill. They need some outfielders, Scott Hairston, Cody Ross, depending on how much they want to spend. Either way, they have a lot of holes to fill, but great trade for the Mets here. I would say a pretty solid trade for the Blue Jays, too, making them probably, I would say, the early favorites for the AL East, but I'm not going to put out my projection yet. It's going to be a very competitive division. Nice addition there with R.A Dickey, and for the Mets, great trade. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.